I'm Liz.
And I'm Emily.
And we're
English only.
Hi, I'm Danielle.
And I'm Sarah.
And I'm Lauren.
And we're for bilingual education.
English-only education is a form of education in which English-speaking students and non-English-speaking students are placed in the same classroom. All the instruction is taught in the English language, which allows for the total immersion of non-English-speaking students. There are also pull-out services for English language learning students to better accommodate their needs. It has helped millions succeed and is the most seamless way of introducing them to the English language. Many bilingual education programs stop once the students reach the age of high school due to the difficulty of the content at that age. Children who are raised in a bilingual household risk not mastering either language because the languages are not consistent between the home and school environments. English-only education allows for English language learning students to learn English quicker because they are fully immersed in the language. They don't take extra time to learn a second language, they just learn it throughout their classes.
There are 3 ways that English education learning is better than bilingual education. The first is it's cheaper. There's no need to train teachers to be bilingual. This can be costly as well as difficult. Schools also have no need to purchase instructional material in the second language. That makes buying the materials much cheaper. Second, socially. English only helps and focuses students to learn the English language fast to stay at pace with their peers. It's not taking extra time out of the day for teachers to teach 2 different languages. It also allows them to be more social with their peers. They're able to study with their English peers and learn from them. Third, children also do not learn the discourse and what is socially acceptable of each language. Socially, they are left behind on the outside of their peers. Finally, they are being able to speak 2 languages fluently, which can improve job status. The last thing is there's no need to use bilingual education. Bilingual education reduces their focus on other things. There's so much focus on learning a new language that there's no focus on the topics and the subjects at hand. Some students may not respond to learning other languages and may reject the learning and the school altogether. Qualified teachers. Teachers may not be as qualified to teach a second language as they would be English if they've grown up with it their whole lives. And finally, it builds a barrier between the English language students and the native speaking students. There's no social interaction between them.
Due to these reasons, we believe that the English-only approach should be used in all schools, as it is overall a more reasonable and more effective method of education for English language learners.
Bilingual education is education in an English language school system in which students with little fluency in English are taught in both their native language and English. There are 2 types of bilingual education models. The first is transitional bilingual education, which involves education in a child's native language, typically for no more than 3 years, to ensure that students do not fall behind in content areas like mathematics, science, and social studies while they are learning English. The second is dual language immersion, or 2-way bilingual education, which is designed to help native and non-native English speakers become bilingual and biliterate by teaching content in 2 languages. In this model, teachers do not repeat or translate the subject matter in the second language, but strengthen concepts taught in 1 language across the 2 languages in a spiral curriculum in order to provide cognitive challenge.
These have many benefits on the brain of those who are in the program. These benefits include better attention skills. Another benefit is bilingual students show more empathy, so young children being raised bilingual have to follow social cues to figure out which language to use with which person and in which setting. As a result, bilingual children have demonstrated a head start on tests of perspective taking and theory of mind, both of which are fundamental social and emotional skills. Reading in English is improved, so Jennifer Steele at American University conducted a 4-year randomized trial and found that these dual language students outperformed their peers in English reading skills by a full school year's worth of learning by the end of middle school, showing that learning 2 languages makes students more aware of how languages work in general, aka metalinguistics awareness. Another benefit on the brain is that they have more success and engagement in school. So in studies covering many states and districts, they have found that in dual language, students have somewhat higher test scores and are happier in school. Attendance is better, behavioral problems fewer, and parent involvement is higher, and there is more integration and diversity in the classroom.
Some other reasons why I believe bilingual education should be mandatory include bilingual children have an academic advantage. Bilingual children are able to focus more intently on the topics at hand and avoid distractions from academic pursuits. They are also able to demonstrate higher levels of cognitive flexibility or the ability to change responses based on their environment. Bilingualism improves lifelong learning skills as well. The more that children can take advantage of new concepts, the more in tune their brains will be to all learning throughout life. Employment rate is also higher in adults with bilingual capabilities. It also helps remove international language barriers. Students who come from Spanish-speaking homes can lend their language expertise to friends from English-speaking homes and vice versa. Language barriers should come down with help from the K-12 education system. It leads to collaborative learning. Dual language programs should show students a broader worldview and lead to greater opportunities for collaborative learning. Early bilingual education also increases fluency in their later years. 88% of children that were introduced to English at an early age describe themselves as strong English speakers from the Pew Hispanic Center of Statistics.
For these reasons, bilingual education is a method that should be used in all schools because of the growing number of students coming into the country that have little to no background knowledge of the English language. It also applies an extensive number of benefits that the method proves to have on students.
So Liz, do you think that saving money is more important than a quality education for an ELL student?
Just because students are placed in classrooms where they only speak English doesn't mean that they won't have support along the way throughout the day. So there are still pull-out services in which the students get help from specialists, and there may even be a class which the student is excelling in, so they can take time out of the day then to train in the English language specifically. The student will then learn the English language and have the opportunity to ask questions on a more personal basis. Instead of having a lot of specialists for almost every class as well, there could be just one or two that can help the whole school throughout the day, which will be just as effective. Students can also look to their peers to learn the English language, so teachers can try to instill more peer tutoring, and this will help them throughout the day. So using students to teach the English language is just as effective because ELL students will be able to relate more to their friends and be more social throughout the day as well. By having one or two specialists on staff and also peer tutoring students, they're getting the same amount of education just at a less expensive rate.
Okay. So that being said, Emily, I have a question for you. So studies have shown that students who speak two languages are more well-rounded. Do you believe that is true?
I do believe that is true. I think that students that are able to speak two languages are more well-rounded. However, English-only education isn't asking them to not be able to speak two languages. English-only education is asking students to, in the school setting, only speak English. We're not asking them to completely abandon the native language. Instead, when they come to school, they're only speaking English. They're completely immersing themselves in English. Whereas at home, they can still speak their native language. So in the long run, they're still speaking two languages fluently. They're just learning to speak English fluently only in school. So when going to job interviews or even higher education, they're going to be expected to speak English fluently. So by immersing them completely in the school setting, they'll be able to do that. Two languages are still being spoken, just not in the elementary school. In business, they're going to be expected to speak English just as the preferred language. So by immersing completely, just like you would going to any other foreign country, we're doing the same thing.
Okay. So I know that you said that the students would only be immersed in the English language, but what if you have a student who can only speak, like for instance, Spanish? How would they be able to understand what's going on in the classroom?
Well, millions of immigrants that migrate to America every year only speak the other language, but in order to assimilate them properly, it's helpful for them to learn the English language faster. So by complete immersion, it will force them to learn the English language as fast as possible so that they don't fall behind.
And just like we spoke about in the first question, there's still services for them. They're not expected to just sit in the classroom and only speak English. There's pull-out services. We've already talked about that. There's peer tutoring. And the teachers aren't just going to completely go through their day just speaking English. There is going to be some help. The lesson might be slower for fluent speaking English students, but it's not going to be just complete blabber. There's going to be help throughout the day.
And in the beginning, while there will only be English spoken, the teacher's gonna have to accommodate for the student that can't speak Spanish by giving them more attention while only speaking English still.
There will be help. We're not expecting students to just know English as soon as they walk in the room and suddenly be magical and be able to speak English. There's going to be help for them throughout the day.
Okay. So Danielle, do you think bilingual education is a reasonable plan given the limited funding that schools get?
I believe that bilingual education is reasonable even when given the limited funding because it benefits English language learners in the long run. If students begin learning a language at a younger age, they have a better chance at being fluent in their older years. No child should be left behind just because they do not speak English.
So with the limited funding that they do get, how will the school afford to train teachers to be able to access bilingual education and also buy supplies like books and stuff in 2 different languages?
Supplies in another language could be as simple as writing the Spanish translation of an item in marker on a piece of printer paper next to the corresponding item. Schools can hire teachers who are bilingual, which would be beneficial to all students by widening English-speaking students' horizons. There is no disadvantage to spending money for all types of learners and exposing children to a different culture.
Now we're going to shift to socially. How do you expect the English language learners to develop socially if they're not immersed in a classroom with English-speaking students and they're only with students that are from their native language?
Well, in dual language immersion, which is one type of bilingual education that we touched upon in our opening statement before, the students are immersed in classrooms with other students who are learning language as well as students whose native language is English and are learning other languages. That being said, by being in this program, it helps students develop socially because they know more than one language and can identify with others who speak either one or the other languages. And another point is that students will feel more comfortable in the classroom if they are not thrown into a classroom that only speaks a language they do not know. So in these dual language classrooms, they're immersed in a classroom that has their language and English, so they'll feel more comfortable.
But do you think that students will be left out and not included with their peers and that'll affect them like socially and stuff and make them scared?
Bilingual education promotes more interaction between students with different backgrounds because, like we just discussed, students are encouraged to interact with those around them that speak either language. School is all about learning, which provides students to be open to other cultures and languages that they are exposed to. Students love to be exposed to new things, and a new language will be exciting for them to learn, whether it is their native language or not. If an ELL student knows other ELL students in the building, they are also able to find those students and share their own experiences. The teachers of the ELL students will also ensure that these students are socializing with other students and will pair the ELL student up with other English-speaking students so they are also exposed to both cultures.
So how does bilingual education break like language barriers?
So bilingual education breaks language barriers because it exposes English speakers to a different culture and language as well as the people who came, the English language learners. So if ELL students are taught through a bilingual education, they are able to break language barriers between teachers and parents in things like parent-teacher conferences, assignments, and upcoming events. Students who are English speakers are also able to assist the students who are English language learners and vice versa. This would break language barriers by combining cultures and causing students to help each other and work together.
English-only education is the right choice for English language learners. In order to assimilate into this country and lead prosperous and good lives, they need an understanding of the English language. By having English only in the classroom, students will be fully immersed in the language that they are learning. This will help for 2 reasons. Number 1, this will push the students to learn the English language faster. And number 2, the students will be better connected to the English-speaking students in their classes. When going to a foreign country, people prefer to immerse themselves completely into the country. This means learning about the culture, food, and most importantly, the language. This logic should also be applied when looking at English language learners. Overall, English-only education is the most effective and realistic education plan for English language learners. Although it is proven that people who speak multiple languages are said to be better well-rounded, the English-only approach is not asking students to completely abandon their native language. Students will not stop talking their native language at home, but they are expected to speak English at school. Instead of abandoning their native language completely, students are fully immersing themselves into the English-only approach to learn English completely. This will be faster and more efficient because they will not be able to solely fall back on their native language. At school, they will be asked to speak English in their native language and then their native language at home. Speaking English only at school will improve their communication more easily to help for things like job interviews, excelling in school, and talking with peers. The English-only approach is helpful because a lot of programs may stop once the students enter high school or a vocational program. One of the most important aspects for English-only is that it is more cost-efficient. Schools have limited funding and will not be able to fund the program while paying teachers and buying supplies and resources. Teachers also need to go through a lot of training to be qualified to teach bilingual education. Along with the cost of training teachers, the teachers also need to find the time to do so. Teachers are busy making lessons, teaching students, and making sure all students are cared for. It would be nearly impossible for them to fit bilingual education into their busy schedule. We believe that English only is the way to go for many reasons. English only is more cost efficient and better for students overall. This approach will push students more and give them a quicker access to learning English.
Bilingual education is the right choice for English language learners as well as students whose native language is English. It benefits both types of students by opening up children to different cultures and widening their horizons. It also benefits all students' brains by giving them better attention skills, assistance in becoming more empathetic, more success and engagement in school, better metalinguistic awareness, which again means learning 2 languages makes students more aware of how language works in general, and more integration and diversity in the classroom. Along with this, bilingual education is the most effective and the right choice because an ELL student's vocabulary needs to be developed, but it is hard to do so using an unknown language. Bilingual education breaks language barriers because it exposes English speakers to a different culture and language. In early stages of learning, ELLs make progress that is equal to English speakers, but as content gets more challenging, there is need for instructional modifications. ELL students need to feel a sense of home by using text with stories or themes from the student's own culture. These students also need the use of their primary language for clarification and explanation of lessons, so they do not fall too far behind with directions in the class as a whole.